Demon attack clip blasts uncharitable skeptics. What? The documentarian who recently went viral after Tucker Carlson told him he was physically mauled by a demon pushed back against skeptics who dismissed the former Fox News host claims about spiritual warfare. They do believe it unless they literally don't think they've ever loved anyone or ever will. Those people are liars. They do believe in the spiritual, they believe in things unseen. There's never been a human who doesn't believe in things unseen. It's ridiculous. I love Tucker Carlson. He cracks me up. Ghost, I forgot it was Sunday. It is. It is, in fact, Sunday. It's unfortunately Sunday. Not ready for what is to come. The Discord is open. Nat, why are your like counts gone? What do you mean? What do you mean the count? Like likes disappeared? Shenanigans? I feel like we barely exist on YouTube. I doubt there would be shenanigans. Nat said, hi, family. Please pray for me if and when you get a chance. I've been dealing with... Okay, I won't say that, just in case. But we will definitely keep that in mind. And remember, Discord has a section for that people do monitor. And we love you. So definitely drop that in there too.
Yeah, your like counts are gone. Like, you can't see the number of likes you have on the stream.
Oh. I'll look at that. That might be a settings thing. Comments and ratings. I don't know. Oh. All right, see if it changes now. It was a checkbox. I don't know why that would have...
I figured that's probably all it was.
Yeah, I wonder why that just randomly happened, though. I didn't know you could hide that, to be honest.
Yeah, you can.
Interesting. I know the dislikes went away, you know, a handful of years ago because the mainstream media was getting destroyed. Oh.
Censorship tactics.
Yeah, right. Very sneaky. Nobody knew what was up.
It's still like that. Let me refresh.
See, it should be good now, but I'll need to check because maybe some of the past videos are like that too. If I didn't notice the checkbox, was there?
This is the first time I've noticed it.
Interesting. I don't know. I guess.
Oh, I can see it now.
Okay. All right. So it's fixed. Weird. Weird.
Where is everyone tonight? I guess everyone else forgot it was Sunday too.
Is something going on? Veterans Day is tomorrow. That's all. I feel like...
Yeah, all the Veterans Day parties going on.
Yeah. That'd be great, though. Like, that would be something that I would totally get behind. You should do that. It's sad that that is not...
Yeah, probably should do that.
For real. Scott! Oh, it's been a weekend, for sure. Tampa, I tried celery juice a few years ago, and I haven't had a kidney stone. I won't say the rest, just out of respect, just in case. Issue sense, interesting. Do that. Isn't cranberry supposedly really good, but not like cranberry juice the kids would drink, but like the very sour, bitter cranberry. I believe that's also good for that. But I don't know if it's just prevention, and once you have it, you kind of need to go other ways around it. Or other ways about it. Not entirely sure. That is rough, though. I do not envy you on that one. In case you're watching this later, we have a Discord. There's a link to the Discord pinned to the live chat. There's also a link in the description of the video. We do 3 of these a week now. 2 of them are on this channel at Live Bible Study. 1 of them is at Tattoo Theist. But if you come to the Discord, you'll be able to find them all super easily. So once you get in there, you can click events, and then this one is happening right now. It'll give you the link to which channel it's on, and then show you what time and where, and it should show your time in your time zone as well. But we do the canon Sunday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. We do a live topic discussion that everybody votes on what the topic is. So this Tuesday, we're doing what is the golden rule and why does it matter? That's at 7 p.m. Central Time on the other YouTube channel. And then Thursdays, we do the Apocrypha or extra canonical text. And right now we're reading the Book of Giants, which for whatever reason killed it in the algorithm last week. Just very oddly. Very, very weird deal. All right. Let's see. We got a good one tonight. We got Joseph's Dream. Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Anybody who went to Catholic school saw third graders do this as a play, and it was always extremely comical and very good stuff. Is cranberry juice all you're doing? Except, oh, okay. Drop the recipe, girl. Cranberry is the only one I know. I'm sure there are other good remedies for that. Cranberries, I guess, like the go-to, what everybody recommends when you have issues like that. Joseph Street, Genesis 37. Jacob lived in the land of his father's sojournings, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. This was the first issue, or that's the first issue. It's the first problem between Joseph and the brothers. It's the first time it gets pointed out, at least that we're aware of. This is the catalyst, I guess you could say. Verse 3, now Israel loved Joseph more than any other. Sorry, I read that really odd. Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a robe of many colors. A few things here. Jacob's favoritism is understandable in the immediate context of Joseph's birth. Joseph was the firstborn of Rachel, Jacob's first love, after years of barrenness, which everybody's fully aware at this point, is seen as a curse. It's seen as a very bad thing. There's a lot of stigmas tied to that. So after years of being barren, Rachel was able to have Joseph. Jacob seemed to have made no attempt to hide this favoritism from Joseph's siblings, which is important to point out. This is all from Logos, by the way. But that's important to point out, and that'll make a lot of sense as we go on if you're not familiar with this story. Probably most people are, though. Then he said, and he made him a robe of many colors. Some translations, interestingly, and this is not really a rabbit hole, but it's something interesting to look at if you're weird. A lot of translations will say a robe with long sleeves. I've never gotten to the bottom of it because I've never really cared, but it is something that I notice as I look through parallel Bibles, that some will be the robe of many colors, which is kind of the stereotypical story of this. It's how it's portrayed. I feel like 90% of what I've ever seen has been the robe of many colors. But there are a significant number of translations that they omit the colors and replace it with long sleeves, which I just thought was interesting.
What if it was just a flamboyant wizard robe? With the wizard sleeves?
With the loose end sleeves? That would be fantastic. I just wonder what that's all about. Because I would assume that a lot of these robes had long sleeves. But also where they were, maybe not. Maybe they adorned something else when it was chilly outside. I don't know. God the Son, Jesus Christ saves. One of the long name homies. It's good to see you. Anyways, though, this is from Logos. This was interesting to me. The meaning of the Hebrew phrase used here, kethoneth pasim, is uncertain. It also appears in 2 Samuel 13, 18 through 19, but without any description. While it is clear that Joseph's robe set him apart from his brothers, likely indicating his favored status, it is not clear exactly what set it apart. It could have had long sleeves, been made of expensive material, or been a robe of many colors. So what they're saying is that it's not exactly clear, which is why you have the kind of the divide of interpretations and translations. regardless, though, the idea is that something set it apart. So whatever that thing was, whether it was expensive material, had long sleeves, which apparently contextually would mean that it was different than whatever the norm was, or if it had flamboyant colors, something set it apart. That's really the thing that matters. The idea that the robe had many colors derives from the way the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, translates the word chthoneth, pasim. Regardless of its appearance, the robe distinguishes Joseph from his brother and possibly indicates a position of authority over them. So regardless, something set it apart, whether it was colors, expensive material, or having long sleeves. That's really all that matters for the purpose of the story. Verse 4. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. For the 1,000th time, Genesis is drilled in the brain of the reader that dreams were a primary means of communication from the divine to the human. Not just Genesis, but obviously this is as far as we are chronologically. All of the Old Testament drills this in, but Genesis especially is very, very, very heavy on this. Also to note, I feel like I've said it before, but I'll say it again, it's not strictly to the Bible. Dreams have always been, in dare I say all, if not most, major religions, a means of communication from the divine to the human. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. 6, he said to them, hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf. His brothers said to him, are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. The author of the text has reiterated the hate of the brothers to Joseph for all the numerology people 3 times. If nothing else, the repeated nature of conveying that to the reader really drives home the conflict that will then ensue as the story progresses. It really frames the brothers as, in a sense, evil, but at least jealous and mad, angry, upset. But it primes the reader for what is going to happen. Jeremiah, the lost, down there near the border, doing the Lord's work. What's going on? It's good to see you. You're going to give him a big head. What did he say? I need a big head. I could use a big head. Ah, hey, Joe, you're looking handsome. Well, thank you, kind sir. Thank you, kind sir. I do appreciate that. It's great to see you. Tell your lovely wife that we all say hello. It's been a long time. We miss you. I hope you are... Never mind. I was going to say something not pro-social for the Bible study. But just know I love you. And I miss you. And I hope you're doing well. And the new babe. I hope the new babe is doing well. And maybe you should post some pictures in the Discord to quell everybody's baby fever. That'd be great. Thanks. Love you. Bye. They hated him even more. Blah, 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 blah. They really hate him. Reiterated 3 times. Setting the stage. Priming the reader. So here you go. Verse 9. Then he dreamed another dream. Great. And told it to his brothers and said, behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars, were bowing down to me. This is probably in reference to the family. Jacob would be the sun. The moon would be Bilhah or Leah or Rachel. Joseph's mother was already out the door, gone, deceased, making Bilhah, Rachel's servant, his stepmother. And Leah was the chief wife. The 11 stars probably refer to the 11 brothers of Joseph, his brothers. While Joseph's dream is not literally fulfilled as is written, literally, Jacob is never recorded as bowing down to Joseph. So we never get that part of the fulfillment from what Joseph is saying throughout the dream, throughout his expression of the dream. We don't get that part. but the essence of the dream is fulfilled. So not literal, but the essence of it definitely is. Chat disconnected. Is everybody here? Are we good? Looks good. Looks fine. I'm just going to keep talking, and hopefully I'm not talking to myself. Sun, the moon, and the stars were bowing down to me. This is his dream. But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed?" I love the way this is written. It's very silly in today's way of speaking. "Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him. But his father kept saying in mind, this is from Logos, Jacob has no doubt learned of Jacob has no doubt learned of Joseph's first dream. I mean, he's aware of the first dream that he explained to his brothers. It's repetition in verse 9. Then he dreamed another dream and had told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream," yada, yada, yada. That establishes both its authenticity and certainty, because it's kind of a corroboration of, despite his rebuke that comes in verse 10, the father's rebuke. Jacob leaves open the possibility of the dream's future fulfillment. I'm pretty sure I'm still here. I feel like that's a philosophical answer that I want to have a debate about. Are you still here? Are any of us here? Is any of this real? I'm not sold. Joseph sold by his brothers. Now his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." And he said to them, "Here I am." So he said to him, "Go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with his flock, and bring me word." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a man, the ominous man, found him wandering in the fields. Pause right quick, though. From the valley of Hebron and came to Shechem. The distance from Hebron to Shechem was about 50 miles, which would be roughly about 5 days on foot for the people who like to picture this in their head, because I am that people. And then in 15, in the very beginning, and a man, the ominous man from earlier in Genesis, not actually, but possibly. The identity of the man is unknown, just as the identity of the man earlier in Genesis was unknown. This is the man that Jacob wrestled with. Maybe not. Maybe it's a totally different ominous man. But it seems to be reminiscent of when Jacob had wrestled with the ominous man back in 32, who turned out to be, if you remember, an angel. Something not here, something not human, right? So possibly not. We don't really know because we don't have enough context. But a man found him wandering in the fields, and the man asked, "What are you seeking?" "I am seeking my brothers," he said. "Tell me, please, where they are pasturing the flock." Either the notorious, this is like total background that doesn't really matter, but it's interesting. It's from Logos again. Either the notorious reputation of Jacob's sons, particularly around Shechem, because of what went down in chapter 34, or the size of their flock would make them immediately recognizable, which is why the context makes sense that he asks just this random ominous dude, where are they? As if this random dude would know. Well, he probably would, because of the reputation of the family, or because of the size of the flock, in that it was abnormal. Fun context. 17. And the man said, "They have gone away, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.' So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. They said to one another, 'Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits.'" This is interesting, because this is one of the things you would never get if you didn't dig into things. The chat just disconnected again. Are we good? The YouTube backend is fine. Is it just the chat that is being weird? Is it just me that's seeing that? Maybe I'm just crazy. This is interesting. Anyways, come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Everything I've ever seen in my entire life, they always show the pits as just a random hole in the ground. It is just It is just a hole of dirt with nothing in there. That's always been the way it's been depicted. This is not accurate. These are man-made storage containers for water. And so I have it's a cistern. And so I pulled this up and I want to read it to you because it's like the accurate, academic description of it. The Hebrew word bor means cistern. Ancient Israelites cut cisterns out of solid rock to gather and store water during the rainy season. Many cisterns have been found in Israel, some of which are quite large and deep, over 20 feet down. This context here also clarifies that the pit was a cistern for catching water. Interesting stuff. Things you don't know. The more you know, PBS Kids. Okay, you're all saying it's fine, so I'm just going to shut up the next time it goes off. I just keep getting these chat disconnected. Please wait while we try to connect you. Successfully reconnected. It just keeps going off. Quoting from one of my favorite shows, Westworld, real is that which is irreplaceable. I've never seen Westworld. I'm so uncultured, it's ridiculous. Ecclesiastes 12:6. Let's go. KJV for fun? Nah. Ecclesiastes 12:6. Remember him before the silver cord is severed, and the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring, and the wheel broken at the well. Connection? Tampa, so normal, I'm out. We are anything but normal, I feel like. Currently watching Westworld. Love that show. What is it about? Okay, I kind of figured that's where you're going.
It's about AI, the natural implications of it advancing to the point where we're effed.
Yeah. I just put it in the chat so nobody has to look it up if you're interested. That's the Ecclesiastes 12:6. The well being the cistern. Interesting. Love it. Graves are super late. You are. You're like minorly late. You're like just past the point of it being socially unacceptable to be late. It's very close to the point where you just don't come. But I'm here, was talking with the boss, yelling at me, yelling. I met Gallon brother when I was younger. What? Can you retype that? Because I'm curious about what just happened and what you're talking about. Let me find where I am. Then, so come now, let us throw them in the pits. They're talking, they're conspiring. I'm sorry, I'm like invested in what Graves' story is right now. I'm going to try to decode this. But I'm here, was talking with my boss, yelling, I met Gallon brother when I was younger. Is this a Westworld thing? Is he talking about a Westworld thing? Did he meet a Westworld person when he was younger? G.G. Allen. Okay. I don't know who that is, so I'm going to guess you're talking about West Wing. And maybe I just look like a total idiot right now. But I will accept the consequences of that. Mikhail said, what we're looking at and listening to is Joe, but isn't quite Joe. But in looking at Joe, not as being Joe, we can see Joe's suchness. Good God, help me. That needs to be added to the quote thread in Discord. I need to find it first. But once I find it, I will add it. I have copied it. Nope, old punk band. Oh, okay, I was totally off. Sorry. Was a psychopath. I think the well cistern is a metaphor for where Christ is. Interesting. Let me make a note. That's gonna need to go through every time the words are used type thing. All right. I'm looking at that. That's interesting. Literally a psychopath. I don't know who this is. I'm so freaking uncultured. I don't know why you guys like me. Then we will say with a fierce animal that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams. But when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, let us not take his life. Reuben is trying to de-escalate in a sense, not save him necessarily. but at least kind of pull things back. Like, maybe we don't murder him. Maybe we all, take a beat, grab a sip of water real quick, relax, and figure out what to do. We don't really know why he's doing this. It could be that he feels he might be held liable because he is the oldest, but it's really just not clear. 22, and Reuben said to them, shed no blood, throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hand to restore him to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. And there's the context that makes you think, why would there be water in it? And we know because of what it was. That's why there would be water in it. 25. Then they sat down to eat, and looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. I'm going to read this. And this is something to look into, actually. Here you go. The Ishmaelites said to sell Joseph to Potiphar in 39:1, so later. Elsewhere, it is Midianite traders who take Joseph from his brother and sell him to Potiphar. So this is actually something that seems to be contradicting in the Bible. 25 says they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. The text is problematic since these Ishmaelites are said to sell Joseph to Potiphar, and elsewhere the Midianites are who took Joseph to Potiphar. So something not quite square, doesn't quite add up. Why? Who knows? Does it really matter a whole lot? Probably not, but something nonetheless to be aware of. With their camels bearing gum, balm, and myrrh on their way to carry it down to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brothers, what profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. How nice. And his brothers listened to it. Then Midianite traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. There's both sections of what will later show to be conflicting. 20 shekels of silver. The Hammurabi, the laws of Hammurabi, 18th century BC. This was a Mesopotamian code of law. The average price that we get from the Mesopotamians, the figure might help us to date the narrative, because it's for 20 shekels of silver. The problem, because some Bibles have translated it, specifically like the ESV has here. The problem is that slave prices varied heavily depending on the slave. Something nobody wants to talk about. But the age, the gender, the sex, the condition. These things would be taken into account when slaves were bought and sold. So biblical translators have kind of taken it upon themselves to use this. From what I understand, the specificity is not actually there. And from what I understand, again, it was based on the Mesopotamian law, which indicated some of the cost. And so they kind of just pulled from that to put it here. Reuben was the sensible brother. Yeah, he was. Not sensible enough, though. He still let him go through with it. 29. When Reuben turned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not in the pit, he tore his clothes. We all know, because I've said it a number of times, and anybody who's read Job knows, this is an ancient Near Eastern way of mourning. It was a way to signify mourning, which puts more on what Jeremiah just said, that Reuben was kind of, from the start, felt something wrong about this, wasn't super stoked about it, and then shows signs of mourning. It seemed that he at least thought that Joseph was dead, just based on what they were witnessing from what they could tell. His brothers were not at the pit when he had returned to it, so they were already gone. 30, and he returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is gone, and I, where shall I go?" More to Reuben. It seems like he feels bad. It seems like he is obviously showing some signs of mourning and regret. It also seems that, like from a handful of verses ago, possibly he feels like this is going to be put on him. He feels responsibility, whether it's responsibility in general or whether it's responsibility for being the eldest, and that being his place of stopping them from doing it, of helping to control it more. There's grief, there's disappointment in himself, at least that's what it seems. I don't want to say that word on YouTube. Is blank do tear an article of clothing when we start the morning? I go $3 on Latte. Ugh. It's good to have you back, bud. It's good to see you. Then they took Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in blood. And they sent the robe of many colors and brought it to their father and said, "This we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not." The brothers, they sent the robe to Jacob instead of taking it to Jacob. Probably to in a sense kind of dupe him so that he got it from somebody else, or felt that somebody else had found it, not them, because maybe that would be suspicious because of the prior context and how much they hated Joseph. And said, "This we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not." And he identified it and said, "It is my son's robe. A fierce animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his garments and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, "No, I shall go down to Sheol to my son. Mourning. I shall go down to Sheol to my son, mourning." Thus his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, and there's the conclusion of what seems to be a possible conflict in the text. An officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. This is the first time that Sheol is actually written in the Bible. This is number one. Fun fact, I suppose. And then some stuff about Potiphar. I like this, so I'm gonna read it. The same name occurs in the Hebrew text of Joseph narrative later, but as two words, Potipharah. This is out of 41 and 50 in Genesis, in reference to Joseph's father-in-law. While the names probably do not identify the same person, they may share the same derivation. Potiphar means he whom Ra has given. Padi Para in Egyptian. The final element in the name, Ra, is the name of the sun god, whose primary center was at... Joseph's father-in-law, Potipharah, is said to have been a priest at the religious center. That's out of 41-45 in Genesis. However, this Egyptian name form does not occur in Egyptian sources before the 19th dynasty of Egypt, or which would be the 13th century BC. Although it reflects an evolution from name forms used in earlier periods, possibly as early as the Middle Kingdom, circa 20th to 17th century BC. Horus, the sun god, the story itself and the story surrounding it is interesting. I feel like we've brought it up and kind of talked about it before. If you want to see an arc, in a sense, that is similar to the arc of Jesus Christ being born and then moving into his messiahship, look into some of the old Egyptian stories. They're very interesting. There are some parallels that will really make you think. What about Jacob's warning about Reuben being turbulent as the waters? You will no longer excel. in Genesis 49. Adds context, right? When they meet again, you get a little bit more understanding of the brothers, for sure. Interesting. Okay, Potiphar done. Judah and Tamar. It happened at the time that Judah went down from his brothers and turned aside to a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hirah. The Adullamite, their geographic location would be in the Judean lowlands, which we'll get a little bit more on here in a little bit. His name was Hirah. There Judah saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. All throughout Genesis, it's kind of been drilled. This do not marry the Canaanites. It was discouraged among all of the Israelites, pretty heavily discouraged. Abraham had told Isaac not to marry a Canaanite in 24. Isaac and Rebekah objected to Esau's marriage with the foreigners and forbade Jacob to marry outside the clan at 27 and 28. The law then, in Deuteronomy later, forbids it also. The intermarrying or intermingling at all in some parts with the Canaanites, because of the risk of foreigners leading the Israelites into idolatry. And you get more context on the idolatry portion of it when you get into Deuteronomy 7. Interesting. I've always felt it was more about him lying to his father about what happened in reference to Reuben. Mikkel said, I bet Jesus experienced deja vu throughout his life for sure. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. What is the little thing with the... What was that? Hey, there's Shannon. Shannon just put this little... Hold on a second. This little hamster thing behind a bottle just popped up really big right here for me, and it was very distracting. I had no idea what was happening. Hi, Shannon. It's good to see you. Your husband has been a lovely addition tonight. As always. As always. All right, continue. He took her and went into her. We all know what that means. Think about it for a second, because I'm not going to say it. Actually, let me just backtrack a bit, because I've talked too much since the context has actually been present. It happened at the time that Judah went down from his brothers and turned aside to a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hirah. Then Judah saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. He took her and went into her. That probably makes more sense. And she conceived and bore a son. And he called his name Er. She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. Yet again she bore a son, and she called his name Shelah. Judah was in Chezib, when she bore him. I think it's Chezib. Oh, Ghost will correct me if I'm wrong. That's the best I got, though. Chezib. A reference to Ashaz.
Man, I got no idea.
No.
Speaking of, could you put the text back on?
Oh, thank you. Yes. There you go. Chezib is the best I got. Chezib is the best I got. But it's a reference to Ashzib or Ashib, which would be a city southwest of Adullam. So the Adullamite in the very beginning, this would be a city that was southwest of where that land was. And Judah took a wife for Er, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. The only other occurrence of that name, Tamar, in the Old Testament would be in 2 Samuel 13 and 14. And this would be with Amnon and Tamar. That's it, though. So it would be a part of David's family. But Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. This is interesting. Er was wicked. The Hebrew word used here, ra, is a reverse of the consonants used in Hebrew for Er's name. This creates a wordplay. Er's offense, or precisely how he died, is unknown. I'm going to paste this into the chat. I thought that was interesting. You get a lot of this. We had a lot of it with Esau earlier on. But there's just this unending wordplay. And primarily with names. And then characteristics about the individual in the Old Testament. I just put it in the YouTube chat. I thought that was interesting, though. So he was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. We have no idea why. Just did. Verse 8. Then Judah said to Onan, go into your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her, and raise up offspring for your brother. With the death of his brother, Onan is becoming responsible for providing children to Onan's wife. This is a normal thing. This is just how the world worked. We don't have to like it. It just is what it is. It would be Deuteronomy 25, where this is actually, it's a part of the law. At the very least, it was a custom that was very much ingrained in the culture. The levirate marriage. This is what they would have done. If one died, a brother would take the place of, so that the family could continue on, and so that the wife could have children and take the deceased father's name. Very normal. Nothing weird about it. Kazib. Kazib? That sounds right. That sounds more right than what I said, as usual. Patricia, it's good to see you. Reuben reminds me of young David, his mischievous nature. That's a fair comparison, I feel like. That's fair. Yeah, I like that. Verse 9. But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his. So whenever he went into his brother's wife, he would waste the... Can you say that on YouTube? He would waste his... I don't know how the hell to replace that. Every time he came into his wife, he wasted the semen on the ground. Who cares? So as not to give offspring to his brother. So recap for anybody who's not fully paying attention. Judah, mom, is saying to Onan that he needs to take responsibility of Er's wife so that she can have kids because died. So Onan now has to, or is being told to, carry on the family line by impregnating his dead brother's wife to keep things rolling. Onan knew that the offspring, though, would not be his. And so his course of action was then to, every time they were making sweet love down by the fire, I don't know how to say it like pro-socially, he would waste his stuff on the ground as to not impregnate her, as to not give offspring to his brother. It would be a great offense to do what he's doing, I guess would be the easiest way to say this. It would be culturally, if nothing else, a serious issue had it been something that was known. It is culturally unacceptable to do what he is doing, where he's wasting his stuff on the ground instead of doing what he needs to do. Goes to I often wonder if these people's names meaning something about the person's characteristics insinuates these stories were written after the fact and their real names aren't unknown. I think in a lot of cases that's 100% true. It makes perfect sense. Yeah. I am a firm believer of that. I don't believe a lot of these names were actually the names of the people. I think some of them are, but there's way too much wordplay. Way, way, way too much. To me, it's never made sense. It's never added up. It's always been way too convenient. It's a really odd thing. And so it seems like it's more at least for the sake of the story, just like any story, man. Like things get embellished, things get changed to make the story more fun and real. Like you have to remember too, like this was all passed verbally for a very long time first. And the only way that stories survive verbally is if they are interesting and if they're easy to remember. So that would be something that would make them interesting, and it would be something that would make them easy to remember. The names, if they were a part of wordplay. Wasting seed to the gulag with you, Jesus Christ. Ruth said, the holy seed was discarded on oh my god. Jesus, God help me. Where are we? 10. Yeah, so all of that just discardeth on the dirt. That's such a better way to say it. I wish I would have thought of that. So I need you. Verse 10. And what he did was wicked in the sight of the Lord, wasting, discardething it on the dirt. And he put him to death also, because God was a savage, and we like to pretend like he was not. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow in your father's house till Shelah, my son, grows up. For he feared that he would die like his brothers. So Tamar went and remained in her father's house. Good Lord. No. Don't do this to me. Hold on. So Tamar went and remained in her father's house. 12. In the course of time, the wife of Judah, Shua's daughter, died. When Judah was comforted, he went up to Timnah to his sheep shearers, he and his friend Hirah the Adullamite. And when Tamar was told, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep, she took off her widow's garment and covered herself with a veil, wrapping herself up, and sat at the entrance to Enaim. I don't know. Enaim. It's the best I got. Which is on the road to Timnah. But pause. Beginning at 13. Your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. Judah is the widow. She is not expected to leave where she is because of cultural norms. She would be in... It's hard to say because we don't fully understand how long they would be in this state of mourning, or exactly the strict parameters of what widowship really looked like in the Old Testament. But from context aggregated across the Old Testament, it seems as though you could at least count on them not leaving the camp that they're in. So they would be trusted to not leave the camp that they were in, because that was just the normal cultural thing, is you'd stay where you were at. That is important in a minute. Then it said she took off her widow's garment and covered herself with a veil. Here and other places is actually really good evidence that we have to understand and to try to prove, if not prove, that Israelite women did not wear veils, regardless of the fact that in a lot of things they're depicted as such. As we continue on, it seems that only certain people wore veils, at least in context here. But it would beg the it's a fair assumption to say that Israelite women never wore veils, other than possibly in very specific circumstances. But it's more likely, in my opinion, that they never did, and I'll solidify that in a minute. So she's basically putting on a costume. She took off her widow's garment. She covered herself up with the veil, wrapping herself up, and sat at the entrance of Enaim, I don't know, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown up, and she had not been given to him in marriage. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. That's the solidification, by the way. The narrator, at least here, is making relatively clear that it would not be normal for an Israelite woman to cover her face. And in fact, if one did, they might be mistaken for a prostitute. So who wore a veil? Seemingly prostitutes wore them. Anyways, the narrator conveys that had Judah known the identity of Judah, this woman, he would not have had relations with her. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. He turned to her at the roadside and said, Come, let me come in you, for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. She said, what will you give me that you may come into me? He answered, I will send you a young goat from the flock. And she said, if you give me a pledge until you send it. He said, what pledge shall I give you? She replied, your signet and your cord and your staff that is in your hand. This is wild, so hold on for a minute. Judah has nothing to pay what he believes is a prostitute, and she is playing along because she has a motive here. Yeah, okay. So, which in a way, Judah not having anything to pay to what he believes is a prostitute confirms that he, at least it insinuates that he's acting impulsively, which would make sense because in a highly sexualized frame of mind, men often do things that are very impulsive. Definitely more than women, but women also do it. But men more so, for sure. No doubt. Tamar asks for collateral because the young goat, he's saying, I will send you a young goat. Not, I have this young goat right here, baby girl, take the young goat. It's a promise. So she's asking for a pledge. A pledge is just collateral. So she's asking for collateral. She deliberately asked for something extremely personal. The signet, the cord, the staff. Extremely personal. And I'll explain why. This would fully identify who he was. Judah thinks nothing of it at all because he doesn't seem to have a problem with it. He's going to do it. Why? Because he just thinks she's a prostitute and nothing more. She, on the other hand, has a very clear motive and wants something specific to him so that she has the ability to completely F his life up. It's a very smooth con that she's running. The seal or the signet, depending on translation, is probably a cylinder seal. A cylinder seal would be a small oval-shaped object upon which a personal sign or name was engraved. Imagine like the family flags, where you could know a royal family because of their flag. It would be a very similar thing. When rolled over clay, an impression was created on it, so it was engraved with their name. They were often hollowed out in the center, which enabled them to be carried on a cord around the neck. Your signet and your cord and your staff that is in your hand. Tens of thousands of cylinder seals were found during archaeological excavations. So you can actually Google this, and they're pretty cool to see. The staff. The Hebrew word used there is mateh. Can mean either staff or scepter, depending on the context. The word can serve as a symbol of leadership or royal power. And it notes that the tribal leaders in Israel had their own staff. So again, specific to them. Judah's staff was probably personalized in a very identifiable way, which is important. So he gave them to her and went into her, and she conceived by him. Then she arose and went away, and taking off her veil, she put on the garments of her widowhood. When Judah sent the young goat by his friend, the Adullamite, to take back the pledge from the woman's hand, he did not find her. So Judah sending he's trying to do the trade now. He's trying to collect on the collateral and give the goat, but they cannot find the woman who has the collateral, but just happens to have all of this personal information about him. It would be like somebody getting a prostitute now and giving her his ID, his social security card, a picture of his face, all of this stuff. And in her hand, she holds everything she needs to completely mess the guy's life up. And he asked the men of the place, where is the cult prostitute who was at the enemy at the roadside? Because that is what he thought that she was. The Hebrew term that is used there for cult prostitute is typically used of a woman in the service of a deity or a temple, which would make sense due to what seems to be the location of where she was. And they said, no cult prostitute has been here. So he returned to Judah and said, I have not found her. Also, the men of the place said, no cult prostitute has been here. And Judah replied, let her keep the things as her own, or we shall be laughed at. You see, I sent this young goat, and you did not find her. It goes without saying that culturally, it would be extremely shameful for this to get out. It would be extremely, extremely shameful. A prominent male from a prominent family who was tricked by or what was thought to be a lowly prostitute would completely shun him entirely. It's like one of these things that you would not get out of. It would be the label for life on his forehead. About 3 months later, Judah was told, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has been immoral. Moreover, she is pregnant by immorality. And Judah said, bring her out and let her be burned. As she was being brought out, she sent word to her father-in-law, by the man whom these belong, I am pregnant. And she said, please identify whose these are, the signet and the cord and the staff. Hold on one sec. I want to pull this up. Okay, so since Tamar was waiting for someone to fulfill the obligation of the levirate marriage, any willful preempting of that obligation on her part was viewed as adultery, which would be a capital offense. From the law, it would be a capital offense if you look at Leviticus 20 or Deuteronomy 22. What she did, what is happening, was punishable by death on both parties' part, but her specifically because of the way that culture just was. I really feel bad for Tamar. When Christ returns for the marriage, assimilation, supper, the veil will be lifted and we will see reality as it really is. I hope to God that's right. I really do. Remember, my brethren, as Gnostics, Yahweh was a self-absorbed lesser demiurge, and never forget. On Wick, Jesus. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. Let her be burned, yada, 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 yada. 26. Then Judah identified them and said, she is more righteous than I, since I did not give her to my son, Shelah. And he did not know her again. He did not sleep with her again. Judah knows he's guilty. He knows he is the guilty party in the situation, regardless of what the reality actually is. So he confesses. In doing so, he spares Tamar's life. He saves her. She gives birth to twins, one of whom, Perez, appears in the lineage of Jesus. If you look at Matthew 1 and you look at Luke 3, it seems it's the same one. Rabbit hole if you're into that type of thing. When the time of her labor came, there were twins in her womb, and when she was in labor, one put out a hand, and the midwife took it and tied a scarlet thread on his hand. This was an order of age thing. So twins, presumably they could get easily mixed up upon coming out without some kind of identifying mark. So the scarlet thread, or the crimson thread, depending on the translation, that's what that was. It was an identifier for which came out first. Saying this one came out first, but as he drew back his hand, behold, his brother came out, and she said, what a breach you have made for yourself. Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward his brother came out with a scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was Zerah. What a heartwarming story. Totally heartwarming story. All right, what is going on here? Oh, Jesus. We were talking about this word last year, Mikhail. It's Matei, right? Matea? or Mate. Well, in my people's culture, a veil has to do with marriage. Can't tell if you're being facetious or trying to tie it to prostitution. So I'm going to choose silence. But there's a way to see reality or God as it is here and now, like a preview. I believe that. Mikhail, do you believe that's done through prayer or meditation or a different word meaning the same thing? Or are you talking about by different means? Take a drink every time someone gets tricked in the Old Testament. Bro, you'd be fucking wasted. Take a drink every time Adam gets deceived in the apocryphal text. People would have died. We would have severe alcoholism rampant in this group. Through a mirror dimly. Mikhail said, Jesus declaring, me and my Father are one. I in the Father, as the Father is in me. I'm in the Father, as the Father is in me. Is that living preview, seeing God here and now? Interesting. I'm interested. Ghost said something today that I thought was kind of ironic, because earlier today I had added to the Tuesday topics this one. Did Jesus become, or was he always God? And I can't remember what exactly it was Ghost said, but I had replied to it because it made me think of that. Shit, I can't remember what you're talking about, but it was really interesting.
It's just some in the moment gibberish.
What was it though? You had given like 4 points. Here it is. The gist of Ghost's new theory on the Trinity is similar to the traditional theory, but different in a few ways. There are actually 4 components. If you haven't read this, go read it, because it's very interesting. But the last one, number 4, the human Jesus is the container that houses the Son and the Holy Spirit. I've been reading a lot lately. And I don't know if it's a movement or maybe if I saw it once and so the algorithm is just throwing it in my face. It seems as though there's a lot more people than I ever knew that believe Jesus was not born God. They believe Jesus at some point became God, which on its face, I think kind of conflicts with, it conflicts with the biblical account. It conflicts with all of the preemptive information we get about who Jesus was, the virgin birth, all these things. Like, you don't have a virgin birth without that being God. But then you can make the argument, well, God can do that, and it can still be a baby. He can, that could still happen. It's a really interesting concept. But if you haven't read the thing Ghost posted, go read it, because it was interesting. And he just said it was gibberish, so don't hold him to it, I guess I should say. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, don't hold me to it, but it's something I've been thinking about for the past couple months.
It was good. I thought it was good. It made me think for sure. And then it took me down a whole rabbit trail of my own.
Because clearly the man born in Nazareth or born in Bethlehem wasn't eternal. Like that body wasn't eternal, but the spirit within him is eternal.
Right.
So it just goes down a semantical kind of road.
It does. That's why I just thought it was really interesting, because I think it can tie to other things too that I'm really trying to hold back so we can keep it for one of those Tuesdays. Which I guess reminds me, Tuesday is, what is the golden rule and why does it matter? I broke the tie because I think it'll be really good, and we'll eventually do idolatry. But the golden rule being derived from primarily the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus's words tied in with the Beatitudes. If you care to bring extra information or any questions or anything like that, I'm going to post the topic under live streams, podcast topics. It'll be in here. So videos, articles, just straight up questions, whatever. I'll do that as soon as we get off tonight. You can put it in there. We'll do that Tuesday, 7 p.m. on the other YouTube channel, and then I'll post the poll for next week. Thursday is, if you haven't been around, the Book of Giants, which has been a struggle. The names just absolutely drive me insane. Jesus declaring, I already read that. It's like the hamster
Ohio
in the bottle. Ohio? Oh, good God, don't. Oh, I was talking to my kid about that today. She's asked me all these. She knows she's not allowed to say words like the skibbity and the Ohio and all this stuff, and she has no interest to. But she'll tell me what the kids at school are saying, and she'll like cringe when she says it, which makes me very happy and very proud. But it's just so awkward having to. It's just so uncomfortable.
You've made her immune to brain rot, so congratulations.
I really have. She's fully aware that it's complete brain rot. She sees it as brainwashing. She's like, these kids seem like zombies. But Kat and I completely just like push that on her from very young. Very proud. Very, very proud father. I wasn't trying to tie anything to prostitution. Orthodox women don't typically cover their hair until they get married. Okay, I didn't know if you were being sly there, because that is something you do. But yeah, totally. They absolutely do. I thought that was really interesting, because I feel like nobody really talks about that. And I feel like there are a lot of Hollywood-esque or Hollywood adjacent depictions of Israelite women wearing veils. And it seems here and other places in the Old Testament, I don't believe that's accurate. It seems as though specific types of women wore the veil, and it's not the greatest kind. And so when we do that in major movie picture or motion pictures, or doing it on TV, like Christian TV shows, I feel like it's a bad representation, just accuracy wise, but also like kind of the insinuation behind it for anybody who knows. Ghost has been working
basically like wearing a wedding ring.
Right. Yeah, it completely is. Ghost has been working overtime for quite some time. I think Ghost perpetually lives in mental overtime. I think that is a fact.
I gotta take breaks every now and then.
You really do. Yeah. You gotta let your brain fucking breathe for a few minutes. People go to Discord and cast your vote. No, it's over. It's over. But I'll post the next one. It's today, tomorrow, Tuesday or something. But Tuesday's done. We're doing the Golden Rule. I have all the stuff put together for it. I'm excited. It's a really good one. It's very interesting. We'll look at like the timeline of the Golden Rule, because the Golden Rule is, again, like everything else almost, is not a Christian thing. It was there before. It was thereafter. Spread across basically all major religions. So I have an actual timeline. We'll look at kind of where it popped up for different religions. It's really interesting. It's good stuff. We may be a bit late to Tuesday's pod. Have an antique auto dinner to go to. Well, no hate there. That sounds like a good time. Dinner or diner? Antique auto. Either way, it's got to be good. You don't let her talk about Ohio Riz? No, I do not. No, I do not. She would be so embarrassed if I asked her to even say like a word like skibbity. She would get all uncomfortable and her nose would crinkle up. It would never happen. She knows better. Gargar, vote for the Golden Rule to know what it's all about. It's already won. Mikkel, we have won. We have won this battle. It is over. We're doing it. Christian depiction of Jewish people in movies has never been very accurate. That's completely true. Yeah. That's very true. Do you still watch the Whatever podcast, Joe? No, I do not. No, it was like my one guilty pleasure for a long time. I'm happy to say I don't watch anything as a guilty pleasure at all anymore. Sometimes Kat and I will watch like The Walking Dead in bed, but that's it. Otherwise, I listen to nothing that isn't teaching me something. Except, I guess, politics. I listen to some political stuff, and I don't think that really teaches me anything. But I at least kind of know what's going on, so I justify it. But no, the Whatever podcast, honestly, it's what's his face, not Brian, but the obnoxious Orthodox guy. Oh God, it's gonna kill me. He's all he does is talk trash to the women. What's his name, Ghost?
Andrew Wilson.
Thank you. I despise this man. I find him disgusting, despicable. Watching his wife talk on Twitter makes me insanely angry. He is a terrible, terrible person. Other than a handful, like every person is not all bad. He says a lot of things that I totally agree with. He's 100% on, and I love the way he said it. But it is totally overshadowed by him just treating women like absolute shit. He treats them like absolute shit when they don't deserve it. There are so many examples of women, like even Christian women on there, and him just being a complete asshole to these women, and they do not deserve it at all. There are certain women that, like, I get why he's blasting them, but there are certain times that I feel like he's just like it's clickbait or clip
It
farming.
seems like he has only one setting, and that's a problem.
Right.
Like, I like to watch him debate like Destiny and stuff. But
Agreed.
It's just some of the other stuff is like tone it down a little bit, man.
It's just the girls. It's just the girls who don't deserve it just completely push me over the edge. I don't know how that dude can feel okay about himself talking to women the way he does. I don't get it. A lot of his points I'm 100% on board with. I think he's got a great view on theology for the most part. He's an amazing debater. He's very, very good. But I don't like the way he talks to women. I don't like it. I could never speak to a woman. Some of the ways I've heard him speak to women, I would not be okay with myself at all. But great debater, super knowledgeable, and plenty of times I've listened to him and been like, right on, very, very good. But I just couldn't do it. So no, when he became like a permanent fixture on there, I was out. Yeah, he's alpha, but like he's not. He's not. You don't speak to women like that. In my book, like I wasn't raised that way. I don't know. I could never do that. You can respectfully debate a woman. You could respectfully express everything he says with grace and with poise and with respect. And he just chooses to not do it. And I'm sure a lot of it is.
He doesn't have a filter.
He doesn't have a filter, and like it's just like classic clip farming. You can tell when he's clip farming, or when Brian and him are kind of like coercively doing it together, which I get, dude. Like it's their livelihood. That's how they make money, and they go viral as hell. Like, I don't blame them. I just don't like it, and so I couldn't watch it anymore. Not for me. It was fun while it lasted. I enjoyed Brian. He was respectful for the most part, but he's gotten kind of cocky too. I feel like it's kind of gone to his head, which is
I haven't watched it in months.
It's just not worth it, dude. 8 hours? 8 hours for what? What do you leave with?
Yeah, no way.
No. Yeah.
I'll watch Andrew Wilson's debates, but like
100%.
Maybe once a month if he debates someone of repute, but
yeah.
You know.
I just listened to him in Destiny. It was good. It was good. You just can't do the girls thing.
Yeah.
And it is so repetitive. Like, yeah, they do OnlyFans, dude. Fuck, get over it. What are you going to say that's new or different? It's very rarely anything new or different is said. It's just very repetitive.
The format needs to change, I think.
Yeah, I agree. They need to switch something up, shift things around. I used to really enjoy it. It was like my one guilty pleasure. I loved it. I would just keep it on periodically all day, like while I worked, to get through the freaking 8 hours of it. But I just feel it's gotten too repetitive, and Andrew Wilson just drives me crazy. I love him, but I love you too. Well, that's the beautiful thing about it, is you can love different people and for different reasons. I get the draw to him. I genuinely do. I totally get it. It's the one aspect of his character that I just can't deal with. But I'm sure he makes a killing doing what he does. So maybe he's smarter than me. I want to see him take on Andrew Tate. I would love to see that, actually. I would love to see that.
Hear me?
What's that? Is someone
Yeah, I can hear you, Graves.
Oh,
It's Graves. I brought him up.
Oh, okay.
oh no, I was just saying because I watch Andrew. At first, I didn't really understand what he was doing. I really enjoy him for his debates. When I sit there and I listen to him, he makes a lot of good points when he's talking to these women, because a lot of the women that come in there, they already know him from when he normally talks with women. But they come up there with a cocky attitude, he gives it right back to them. But if you sit and actually listen to what he's, hold on.
Yeah, it's good content. His content is good. I don't like his delivery.
Like, it's more or less that these women start to get really cocky with him because they have the attitude and mindset of, I'm before everyone else, me, and he'll ask them nicely and politely. He'll ask them a question. He's trying to get when he asks them a question, they avoid the answer so much that he has to start getting, kind of intensify himself a little bit. Majority of the time, these women come up with avoidance answers. They dance around the question. It's like, all right, I have to keep pounding these people until they understand what he's trying to say. majority of the time, a lot of these women just want to argue, or on whatever podcast for the attention. And then when he goes, you guys were offered to come on here, or you volunteered to be on here, knowing what the situation is, knowing what you're going to be getting yourself into, and you expect to be treated like a princess because this podcast gets so many viewers. And when he brings them down to reality, he'll get messages saying, you know what, you were right. I'm going to church now. I understand, and I need your help with understanding the Bible. If you guys sit there and listen to him actually talk when he's talking with his crew and like the chat, you're like, wow, okay, I get what you're doing. I see why you do certain things the way you do. I can get some of the clip farming because there's a lot of parts where he'll have a conversation with somebody and they just don't get it. And he's like, hey, that's going to become a clip. Watch. And it ends up becoming a clip because the women do that to themselves. So that's just how I see it when I watch it, because I didn't really start really watching Andrew Wilson until like the beginning of the year.
So
I was like, oh wow, this guy's really good at debating.
Let me ask you a question, because I agree with everything you just said for sure. But I have a question. I think when these women refuse to answer a question, or they push back, or they get rude, or they get loud, is there any world in which he could stay completely calm, stay respectful, and just refuse to let them leave the question? Where he just continually asks the same question. Let them say something stupid, ask the same question with respect, self-decency, or is it required?
It's he'll ask them the question and they'll give a loop around, and then he'll be like, all right, but that's not answering my question. My question, like the simplest, what was one of the simplest questions? He was asking a girl if she should be doing OnlyFans when she just became a Christian. And she goes, well, God put my body, to use my body, so I'm going to use that. He goes, you shouldn't be doing that. He's like, God made your body for a reason to be, a sacred thing for you and your husband. And she's like, well, my husband's lying. I think God wants me to do this. I'm like, oh my God. Why are you saying these kind of things? You're just going to get clipped now, because it's just kind of an opening for people to see how a lot of these OnlyFans girls set themselves up for this kind of situation.
For sure.
And
for sure.
I get a lot of the times I'll sit there and watch for when he like really gets and pounds into one of these ladies that just want to get really cocky and just like, well, I'm on here because I have all the men want me. It's like, okay, no one's here for you. We want to hear what everyone else has to say. There's a lot of times he'll get girls that agree with him. He just leaves them alone and they'll just have a normal conversation. But one or two are on there for the clips and trying to get, farm and all these, just trying to get guys to go to their OnlyFans, which I'm pretty sure some guys are going there.
Of course.
I can understand where you're coming from, Joe, on that situation. But at the same time, it really is fun to just kind of, when he's not doing whatever podcast, he'll go do TikTok live streams and he'll debate people on there.
I love that.
Oh my God, it's so good. Funny. It's so fun to just get in there. So, but when he does whatever podcast, I just fall asleep too, because it gets boring after a while.
It's just repetitive. I don't know. It's interesting. It's like different strokes for different folks. I have such a hard time raising my voice in the direction of a woman, because I was just not raised that way. So I just have a very hard, arguing is not my thing. Yelling is not my thing. I will sit and just reiterate the same thing over and over and over again. I'm trying to set up debates with people from Instagram right now, because I don't want to make YouTube videos. I just don't want to do it. It doesn't interest me, but I need to keep things going so that we get more people in here. So I've been trying to figure out how to do that. So I've reached out to people on Instagram and I kind of put it out there. Let's debate. But that's just not my style.
I think if for you, because go watch his if you actually I'm pretty sure, like you said, you've sat and watched his actual debates.
Yeah.
He'll debate trolls. He'll debate people who are just plain fucking dumb. But then he'll go against Destiny. Destiny can tangle one-on-one with him, but he just wrecks Destiny every time.
Destiny's bad faith too, though. Destiny gets all crybaby. He gets all upset. He raises his voice too. I just don't get that. I get it for content. I totally get it for content, 100%. I don't get it for actually trying to have a debate. All of like the real people you see have a debate, like Charlie Kirk, who's an incredible debater, or even someone as classic as like Ben Shapiro. For the most part, these men stay very calm. They stay very respectful, and they just repeat the same thing over and over again. Because the last thing, in my opinion, that you want to do in a debate is match your opponent's energy. Because when you do that, you look like just as much of an idiot, and that's my problem with him. Is the girls freak out and get all pissy with him, and then he freaks out and he looks like a pissy little girl. And it's just not for me. For content, totally get it. But like for a productive debate or trying to get somebody to actually understand what you're saying, I don't think it works. Personally, like my opinion.
Yeah. Like I said, it's different strokes for different people.
For sure.
I think it's more or less it's just like how we're coming across it. For me, I'm learning how to debate because he does have debate classes. When he's debating with someone, he calls it blood sport debating. If people are yelling back and forth to each other, there's nothing you can do unless you're Ben Shapiro and all those and like those guys. When it's just 1-on-1, you guys are calm. That's fine. But if the person's being fucking ridiculous and just avoiding an answer, and they start, because most of the time it's the person on the opposite side that he's going against will start the attack on him. And he'll be like, "This could have been a good faith debate, but you want to go there? Let's match powers and let's match energy."
Yeah, and it works.
And yeah,
you know, whether I like
That's
it or not,
because they're not
works.
on the same level. It's like watching Mike Tyson fight a toddler. It's just not the same weight class. So it becomes boring after a while.
That's right.
At least Destiny's in the same weight class, even though I think Destiny's wrong. It's not the same. It doesn't feel like abuse at that point.
Yeah.
Go watch his other debates. He'll have debates with like people who are libertarians. Which one?
Oh, sure, I have. He's a great debater. He's like a polemic debater.
Oh, he's really, really good at it. I enjoy it. Like, I really like watching debates, and when I found him on the Whatever podcast, and I was kind of listening. I was like, oh, this guy makes some good points. And when they start being stupid, he'll troll them because they're obviously trolling back. But the debates are just really awesome and listen
I prefer how Michael Knowles responds to the girls,
100%.
or like Chase, Sovereign Bro.
Yes.
Yeah, those two do it better, in my opinion.
It's more productive, is all. One is more productive for financial gain, making clips and getting notoriety on the internet, 100%, and winning debates because he wins. But one is more productive, Chase or Knowles, is more productive for actually having a conversation. Charlie Kirk was on there too for a short period. Productive conversation, like things were done. The women were listening to them because they were being spoken to with respect. I totally get either side, but I'm gonna cut this off because I just realized we're on the Bible study channel, so we're gonna slash this right here. We're gonna slash this right here. That was my bad, totally my bad.
You're all good.
Tuesday, the Golden Rule. Thursday, Book of Giants. I'll post the Golden Rule, the forum for it. So if you guys want to put anything in there, it will be there and it will be ready to go. And I'm gonna go eat because I'm starving. Good talk though. It was interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's I like this is what I love though. We can all disagree to varying degrees, and we're still here. I think that's a very beautiful thing. It's not the case in today's world very often. Oh God, I'm not getting into that.
Right on. It was good hearing from you, Graves.
Yeah, it's good to hear you.
Yeah, it's dinner time.
It is.
Yeah, I have to keep quiet because my client's in the next room getting ready to go sleep. So
good. All right, it was good. It was good to talk to you, man.
Of course. I'll see you guys later.
Yes, sir.
Love you. Peace.
All right, y'all. Love you guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Peace, brothers.